yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is.
That's dope. What games did you play?
Well, right now I'm a big strategy guy, so I play Stellaris and RTSs and a little bit of shooters once in a while. But I used to be a big Halo player, a big Madden player back in the day. So
Cool.
Nice. I played Quake Live like yesterday. I love those old shooters and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm about to start our podcast proper.
Do you want me on camera or not?
Yeah, please, if you don't mind.
That would be great.
Preferably.
Whatever you're comfortable with, though.
Not
Like, if you don't
required.
want to be on camera, that's okay, but we prefer it.
Okay.
Optional is what we're
I've
saying.
been kind of like in social distancing and pandemic, like
Now recording.
in hibernation for a bit. So I'm kind of like, probably need to shave the beard a little bit, kind of a little wild. But I would like to. I kind of want to do voice for now, and then if that's all right with you guys,
That's fine. Yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit the start streaming for Twitch.
Sounds good.
Here we go.
Welcome to the Yang Gang Roundtable. It is Sunday, November 8th, 2020, 1:19 p.m. I have here Ariel, Faye Ku, Mia, myself, and Old Man Nuker, a.k.a. Josh Easlick. Thank you for coming on the show. We're a basic income advocacy podcast, so I understand you're probably a basic income advocate or someone with something to say about basic income at least. Would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Joshua Easlick. I'm a researcher from the University of Nevada, Reno. Native American, and just glad to be a part of this program.
Thank you.
Oh, cool. Another name.
We're happy to have you. So what nation are you? Did you say that?
I'm from the Oneida Nation. Originally the Iroquois Confederacy from the East Coast.
I'm in New York, so I know about that.
Yeah.
I'm in Orange County, New York. Cool. So,
one of the reasons I wanted to bring him on the show is he wants to help us with our podcast, but not just that, his tribe receives monthly per capita checks, but they also have free healthcare, and he's working towards trying to get free education for his tribe and international trade, which has not been something that tribal members have really done yet. So he's got big dreams and big goals, and I wanted him to meet our crew, and I don't know, but also you helped on Bernie's campaign, right?
Yeah, I was a strategist, an assistant strategist for Bernie Sanders as well. The one thing to clarify, I was working for a free education bill act for the state of Nevada, for the tribes in the state of Nevada. And we get a per capita once a year, so like every month. So it's kind of is what
I didn't
it is.
realize that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
could I ask about how much you get?
Yeah, it's not a lot. It depends on the year. Depends if you're an elder or your age range, I guess. I'd say it's not a lot. It's about $1,200 a year. It's not a lot of money. And then if you're an elder, it's about between $3,200 and $3,700 a year.
Quite a lot more. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I guess they
let's respect their elders. It's the thing,
right? And I guess they presume, probably rightfully so, the elders will do more community-oriented things generally. Oh, maybe that's. I don't know. I mean, that's the presumption. Hopefully, it's right. But I'm sure a lot of young people are frustrated, thinking they would do community-oriented things with more money too.
Yeah. We have a good education system as well here. They pay about roughly $20,000 a year in higher education bills. You get access to that, so it's kind of like free higher education, to a point. And then we also have free elderly care, like elder housing and nurses and things of that nature. We have free elderly homes as well. It's all kind of funded through casino a little bit and government funding, but it's still kind of it's semi socialist a little bit, socialism a little bit. But
what does that really mean?
Yeah. It's a little bit, but it's still it's interesting. leaving the reservation and then coming back, and you realize like the benefits of the reservation is better than some of the U.S. programs out there. It's kind of interesting seeing that, and it's not every tribe either. There's only
Yeah.
certain tribes that actually can do certain things like that, but that's because of the economic wealth of certain tribes. So
You guys not to think, but our YouTube one says Amish Patel on it. It says live
Oh,
now.
thank you. I'll fix that.
Yeah, that was yeah.
are we live streaming on Facebook?
We're not on Facebook. We're
Um,
live streaming to YouTube and Twitch.
Okay.
So, Mr. Easlick, when you, which tribe did you say that this is that you're discussing with us right now?
Oneida Nation, Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin. Okay. So is the way that all of this is set up, do the people vote on, how things work, just like Americans vote on their laws and how things work?
Yeah, it's actually kind of different. So it's a general tribal council. It's kind of like it's almost like a direct democracy. So it's like the group votes as a whole, and it's put into action that way. But it's during like a live meeting, so it's like this huge meeting of between 15 and 3,000 people roughly, and we all get together. There's going to be a set agenda, and like everybody votes directly there and then, and that those laws get put into place. So it's a little different. It's not like a referendum or policy put on the ballot. It's kind of done right there and then.
I like that a lot. I
Yeah.
don't really feel like the representative thing is necessarily working out for the American people on all aspects.
Yeah.
And it happens once a year.
No. I would say we usually have anywhere between seven. I'd say between 7 and 12 meetings a year, and it's like throughout the whole year. So it's like quarter one, quarter two,
So
quarter
it
three,
feels
quarter four.
so it feels a lot more responsive if everybody gets choices to make every month,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Or every other, and then that way you feel like you're involved constantly in the decision making. Now, what if you move away from the area and it would be harder to get back to actually attend the meeting?
That is an issue. So that is an issue because I'm actually run into that situation myself because I research in Nevada. So I didn't get a chance to come back and vote, which is again an issue. But like we have a bigger pocket of people in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we send buses and stuff down there to get some of our people there to come up and vote. So we try our best with what we have, but with our education system to set it up the way it is, there's 20,000 of us, and I think 2 to 3,000 of us are either studying in different places, or there's a lot of us that are studying out of state, and we can't really get back in time to participate in the government. So that is an issue. It ain't perfect, but it's pretty good. I enjoy it quite a bit. Also, having the people involved in their say, getting up there and discussing to the population the issues with certain bills getting passed is definitely interesting. It's different. It's different because you usually have like a meeting. You'd have like the board of directors or whatever, the governmental board, and then you'd have like an open public for discussion. And this is normal. This is normal. This isn't like the Oneida way. Open discussion, and then it would take a little while for them to vote and deliberate and all that. Like right now, when they do that with our tribe, it's kind of like directly voting. Like it's interesting. It gets very entertaining and interesting at times.
Has there been any discussion at all about allowing, say, virtual voting for people who can't be there at the time, or like a virtual town hall attendance type thing where they could come in and, take part that way at least?
The problem with that situation is there's a vital information, like corporate information, that can't be allowed to be broadcast anywhere.
That makes
Because
sense.
you're not dealing with just governmental stuff; you're dealing with corporate stuff too. So you can't deal with like, we're going to build this or build that, or we need to put a certain money away for this or that. That can't be open to the public. Actually, to get people into our meetings, it has to be voted on by the population to get them into a meeting. So it's kind of like it's private.
Okay, so like no private rooms or anything. You wouldn't want that to be compromised or anything like that if something got out wrong.
Yeah. So like if you're doing a business deal, you don't want to know. You don't want certain people to know certain situations.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question about this because I think it's interesting that we already have so many examples of different ways of, making decisions. So if you have these group meetings, do they use, the Western style meeting? What is it? The Roberts Rules of Order or something like that?
There is Robert's Rules of Orders, but it's very loose, I feel.
Oh, okay.
It's
So you
very
guys do
loose.
use that. That's interesting to me.
I think that had to do with, I'm not really sure with this, so don't quote me on this or anything like this. I think that had to do with the um, Governmental Reorganization Act in the early 1900s. I think that might have been part of the thing. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But
So,
I don't know.
so it was adopted at some point
Yeah,
a
it was
long time
adopted. Yeah.
ago. But okay, interesting.
It's kind of like a
Okay,
hybrid.
so
Yeah.
okay, because like how you determine who gets to talk and what gets said, I think could matter in how decisions are made. So it's pretty interesting to me. Thank you for sharing all that with us.
Oh, no problem.
So has it always been the case from the very beginning that there's been something basically like the UBI, or did that start happening, organically, somewhere along the way when there was enough money that was coming in that we didn't know, like, what should we do with this extra, or
I
how
want to
did
say
that
it was
come
in mid 90s that it started happening. We had no economic security. We're kind of an oddity. Within the last like 30 or 40 years, we've grown quite a bit. Um, we went from like 50 acres of land to roughly like 30 or 40,000 acres of land acquired, from like zero business to 300 business units. Jobs from 0 to 5,000 jobs opening up as well. Quite the economic growth within the last, again, 50 years. And I think our government grew because of that as well. There are a lot of growing pains in that quick of economic change. And I still think we're going through it. So yeah, it's in the mid 90s is when things were getting structured properly. Again, decimated from, the let's just say the American oppression of Native Americans was pretty bad.
So how did the tribe get so many extra lands from
Um,
so little?
we started off small. We got heavy into grant writing. Um, so with U.S. grant writing, I think we got a couple of grant writings to acquire. I think one of our first things was a library and a medical facility to take care of our youth. We pressed education pretty heavy as well. And slowly we acquired small little things. Started off with a small little bingo hall Norbert Hill Center, which is bottom of the high school now, which is kind of funny. um, then we got a gas station, and then in the 1980s, mid to late 80s, there was the Gaming Act that we went after it and got our first casino, and that casino spawned so many projects, so many opportunities. And we pressed it. A lot of other tribes would put it into higher per capita checks. We put it heavy into infrastructure. Again, pushing higher education, mental health. Mental health was a thing we pushed pretty hard. Physical health, things of that nature. Housing. It was kind of a great thing for us. As of right now, we're trying to diversify our portfolio. So I sound super corporate right now. I apologize, but we're trying to diversify our portfolio, and that's one of the things I'm researching.
But
We're
the thing is, what you're doing is like you're helping the people with the money and not necessarily a personal agenda of like one individual. Your
Yeah.
goal is to make sure your people are healthy, and then you can add some extra stuff. But you're trying to like meet their basic needs with your infrastructure, which we don't really focus on here. You know, in our politics, it feels like, you know, we're all about like, shame on you for the thing you're doing in your personal life instead of like, here's a resource so your mental health is better.
Yeah,
Right.
and you're seeing the benefits of it too. You're seeing, um, with more economic stability, you're seeing a lot of our younger kids. The generational difference, right? You're looking at generational difference. You're looking at, um, not highly educated people, probably a generation ago. You're talking like sexual abuse and drug abuse and all that, and we're trying to clean that all up for the next generation. You're seeing, kids getting educated, even if it's just associate's degrees, right? Um, and giving them a chance. It's a stable economic kind of like drop back, and it's kind of interesting to see. Um, just generation to generation, and it's kind of a wonderful thing to see from what we came from to like where we are right now. I know the pandemic slowed things up, but we're doing okay, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
that
so
is
gross. It's
very
like
interesting.
people. Oh, people don't need people judging them. People need people's help, and judging people isn't help. Actually, helping people is help. People think that when they're judging, they're like giving such great advice that can be so useful, but it's all just trash. It's like someone born with a silver spoon in their mouth telling someone else that they all have to work harder when they inherited all their wealth. It's so
Yeah.
terrible. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about how your tribe goes about taking care of people with like disabilities and such, who are perhaps maybe less functional than others and that sort of thing? Just out of curiosity.
Okay, so that's an interesting question. So we do love it. So because again, I don't want to like say this is the economic engine, but it is. I'm being real about it. We have the Treaty Act with the United States government, which we access like healthcare situations, right? They pay for some of our healthcare, but the casino picks up the rest of the overhead costs. Um, we do a lot, I think, for our elders. We have our own like physical therapist center. So our own physical therapist center. We have like again, we have our own elderly home with like nurses and stuff in there. Um, we pay for the medical bills as well, for big surgeries and stuff like that. So we'll pick up the tab on that. Um, we do a lot. And then we have deals with like local corporation as well. So a lot of the hospitals and stuff like that we have set up. So it's a really nice system where I'm like, when I was out in Reno, I'm like, man, I gotta get my tooth pulled, and I'm so used to like having like free healthcare. I know this sounds kind of weird for a lot of people to like understand this. Is I could just go to the health center and they'll be like, okay, they'll either pull it out there, and not all BIA centers are like this. So I'm gonna make that very clear. I go there, either get it pulled or get a referral to have another medical facility pull it out like almost immediately if I wanted to. So it's kind of it's and I don't
But
have to
they
dive.
won't fix it. They won't fix the thing you need.
Sometimes they don't have the how do I say this, proper staff to do it sometimes. So they have to outsource. But they still pay for it. So it's kind of it's interesting.
So if you wanted a root canal, you could still get that. You don't have to have it pulled.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what is the size of the Oneida Nation now? How many people are being cared for?
We went from again we go back to this story. I like this story. That's kind of my pitch. I apologize, but we went from like 200 members to about 20,000, I think, within like 50 years. So our population base is actually picking up.
From 200.
Yeah,
That was the lowest at the,
that's
and then
enrolled.
to
When I
how
say
many?
it's enrolled, so like there could have been other tribal members out there that weren't enrolled. So the enrollment status went from like 200 to like 20,000 roughly. I could be wrong with those numbers, but
Was there like a campaign to track down different people from the tribe who might have gotten lost or whatnot to, reunite the community?
I think what happened actually is that the tribe actually started making there's homes and money within the tribe, and people started coming out of the woodwork. I think that's what happened. Like, I think people were just kind of ashamed of being.
Situation.
Yeah. People were like, okay, now I'm Oneida. Now all of a sudden I'm gonna chase I'm gonna trace down my heritage and stuff like that. So it's, there was nothing there before that. I don't think so. There was no point in like enrolling because you have 50 acres of land, pure poverty. Like, you're not gonna want to be a part of that. So okay, now there's housing and land available and benefits and so on and so forth.
From 200 to 20,000 within how long?
I'd say a 50-year period.
Okay, and also so that's right now, right? You've brought it up to the present day. We're at 20-something thousand at this point.
Yeah. It's around there somewhere, 20,000.
And for 20,000 people to meet together and make a decision is not easy, but probably not everybody shows up to every meeting.
No, like it says, but 3,000 people actually show up, roughly. People are doing their own things and we're scattered everywhere. I think our primary
3,000 people. Yeah, that's a lot of people. That's more than meet in our Congress at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty.
And they
It's pretty
have
rough.
to
We
do
do
it.
that. Oh, go.
It's just I'm just trying to wrap my mind around trying to do things together in this way. It's really amazing to me that you continue to use this system instead of saying, oh, now we're just going to have representatives, right?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So I just want to talk about some important here. I mean, we are a UBI podcast. So
Yeah.
you were part of the Bernie kind of like crew or part of that thing. What did you see? Why was there so much opposition to people supporting Andrew Yang that wanted to do the UBI, and they were like, no, it's a neoliberal Trojan horse, and like it'll cut all the other welfare programs. Why should the rich guy have an extra 1,000? Where'd that come from?
I wasn't really into UBI until afterwards a little bit. My friend was he was an organizer in actually Las Vegas. Actually, it's kind of funny. He's Oneida, Wisconsin too. And he was an organizer down in Vegas. And I was in northern Nevada where I was with Bernie Sanders, and I was a university strategist up there. And he talked about it all the time. But I didn't really see any opposition to it. It was actually pretty. I don't know. They're pro Yang a little bit, but I didn't really see much. I didn't see much. I wasn't really paying attention too much to that at the time.
Were you online a lot during that? Because a lot of that was a lot of online drama more than it was real
I
drama.
was not. All my work was offline. My work was organizing with the staff.
See, that's a good idea though, because the online drama was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. I know Yang was trying to recruit me the whole time. You guys are trying to recruit me the whole time. My friend was pushing it pretty hard. He's like, why stay with Bernie? And it was kind of interesting. I like doing a lot of my stuff offline when I do work and political stuff. So,
which is so interesting to me because you essentially recruited me to help you, but not really. You found me, and I'm Yang gang. I don't know. It's beautiful. But see, we're not directly with Yang campaign either. We work, very peripherally, and some of us have better connections to get to him. But we're grassroots all the way, right?
Yeah.
It's just
I like
amazing
connecting with people. I like connecting with people offline. I have a heavy presence when I was younger with online development. Between social media development and website marketing and stuff that's my background is marketing and stuff like that. There's just times where I just want to shut off the computer. I'm just I'm done. I am not going to be working anymore. So it's pretty intense.
what I like about what your guys' tribe is doing is it's a great you're amongst the rest of us Americans and you're doing it successfully and you're a great model for us to kind of tap into for some of the things, right? And it works within this particular society. You're not playing with the rules of, like Germany or something else, right? Like you're here on this playing field, but you're making it work. And it's like, okay, guys, wake up. If they can make it work here, that means it's possible, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite inspiring.
It's very interesting. Our philosophy, the 7 generations philosophy, is definitely different too. It's so I don't know if you guys know what the 7 generations philosophy is. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it.
Please give us a description.
So one of the things is the way that we present ourselves in day-to-day things is like, one, we do and respect our elders and what they've done. Like we've kind of like the work that they've put forward, we respect that, and we're going to live our lives to that type of standard and like that. And we're also pressing for this next 7 generations as well. So what we do today is vital to the success of our people and our land. Here, looking forward and respecting what we've done in the past, and we live in the moment like always. And I love that. I love being a part of that type of like ancient philosophy. Like it's an ancient philosophy. I love being a part of that. I love being like, this is who we are. We're kind of a collective. And it gives you a sense of like true community, and it gives you a sense of like, okay, I'm not. It's difficult to have that American individualism, which I kind of reject pretty heavily. And it feels pretty good just to be a part of something bigger than yourself. If that
Oh
makes
yeah,
any
for
sense.
sure. Like
Everybody wants.
it's so like depressing to just like to think that like it's like sometimes like you against the world, but that's what like that breeds. But like coming from a Persian background, I mean like some like our families kind of stick together, and it like it becomes depressing when you're alone and you're taking like a gigantic project and you're saying I'm doing it all by myself, because you have like, at least if something messes up, you're gonna have people there to like have your back. But then when you're doing it alone and something messes up, it's like like it just doesn't feel good. Yeah.
See, I don't
Not
even know how Americans do that. It was like for me, it was a culture shock when I moved out to Nevada, and I'm like, they were talking about certain little things. It was like, okay, I was talking to a couple of friends, like, oh yeah, I'll see my mom like once a year or twice a year. I'll see my cousins or nephews like, every like 4 or 5 months or whatever. And I'm like, my nephew comes in and out of my house like every day. like he's like my mother. I'm seeing my mother probably every day, every other day. All my brothers are like a block away, and I'm like, there's this sense of community, and it was really weird for me to like realize
Oh,
that
I think
people.
I know, because that's where our culture of workism comes in, where like your job is considered like your identity, and your family is like the corporation, but it's not. And then you just go home like alone, or you're just like something, or you have one or two friends and not a family. Like you see what I mean? Like the corporation has replaced the family.
Yeah, yeah, and I hate that. Like I hate that. Like even like researching wise, like I could access like okay, so I research nation building and international trade for Native Americans, Native American nations. Like that's my big thing. But I was able to tap into, um, I could like go out west, but I could tap into all my governmental resources. I could tap into all my departments because everybody knows everybody within my nation, and I'm like, I could like ask experts in, intergovernmental affairs. I could access people who are in political positions. I could access like economic development. I could access like all these different things. And my professors were like, "How are you accessing all these people?" And I'm like, because we all work as a unit. Like this is not just my project. This is like my people's project. And this is kind of why I'm out here. This is like my job. My job is to go out there and figure this out. And
You have a special network that that other people don't even think about accessing, or because they've never experienced it. They
yeah,
can't just.
Right.
So we're doing that within Yangang. It's almost like we've built that network among us. We're not family, but we've taken the values that were part of the campaign and meshed ourselves through that. We know that if somebody else calls themselves Yangang and puts on the blue hat, they believe in these core values, right? So even if their politics is different or something else is different, at least there's some basis for our relationship that we can really count on. And one of the things we know is that when you ask for something, Yangang shows up, right? So if you say, I really need somebody to help me edit something, or I really need someone to, I just need somebody to help me afford this one
And
moment so I can get through this life and get to next week. Somebody in Yangang will show up for us.
and also I researched this. It says that like
Mhm.
3 out of 5 Americans are lonely. So I'm just thinking, why do you think we have this opium issue? It's like people are feeling this void of, especially when they lose a factory job. It's like if you don't have family or like a good network to fall back on when you're like lost a job and your job was your whole identity, then depression just hits you like a freight train. And that's why these pharmaceutical companies are making so much money, because people are filling that void of like loneliness with like these bad habits. Do you think?
oh, I agree 100%. I agree with 100% with that.
Yep.
Was that
I think America. I mean, I don't want to generalize here. I don't want to paint a broad brush here. Um, I almost feel like America has lost its sense of community and identity
Absolutely.
quite a bit.
100%. That's like why we're here. Yeah.
So, I mean, for example, certain vices like abuse of alcohol or abuse of, substances, more of an issue before, the United Nations started rising and becoming more wealthy and being able to help all of its
There's
members?
still those issues. I think that's like every community within the United States has a lot of those issues. It's still an issue. There's programs out there to fight it off, though. Again, we have our mental health facilities as well. They kind of layer it. They layer it with like group therapy and like outreach programs and awareness. So there's different multiple programs running to try to curb uh, the alcoholism issues within our tribe. But that's something that I think is generational. It's a lot of generational trauma. It's going to be it's going to be a few generations before we clean that up. But if we put the work in now, maybe we can stomp it out in like 2 or 3 generations. And
And
that's
Well,
what
I
it
and
feel
is.
like
and
I didn't quite hear the full story of the 7 generations that you were talking about. Does
Oh,
that
it's
relate
about
to the generational trauma?
yeah, it's about respecting like our past generations and what they have done and what they've accomplished to get to where we are right now, and to respect and build upon what they've done in a respectful manner, environmentally, physically, and economically. So
and
it's kind of like you're kind of
But in the
like this is like
seven
what we
generations,
are, huh?
in the 7 generations, when I hear you say that, I imagine us, the current one, as being the fourth one. So it'd be 3 generations before you and 3 generations after you.
Yep.
No?
Yes.
Or are they all behind us when we talk?
No. 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 It's
Okay.
kind of it's a
Because I
philosophy of
also
like
feel like we
living in
don't
the
have a
moment.
respect for our. Yeah, like in the United States, the American society, I don't feel like there's enough emphasis on the future generations to come, too. Like
oh yeah,
there's
like we treat
looking
children like
back,
dirt
but
here.
also looking
it's
forward.
it's terrible. It's like, oh, children should be seen, not heard. Well, then why did you have them? Sure, like that disgusts me so much. And if you guys remember, Whoopi Goldberg, she said when Yang was talking about a UBI, she said, then why not have an American tribe? Because they do that because like I'm pretty sure like an Indian tribe is not a corporation. Once you're not economically viable anymore, they just don't throw you away and not care about you after that. Like a corporation says, we're a family, but once you're no more, your sales number aren't up, then you're nobody. You're not family anymore. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, a corporation is just a reach of our tribe. It's just a component. Like you're still identity. Your identity is still, you're still one of us. You're, it's we're all gonna struggle together and we're all gonna grow together. There you go. There you go. We're a giant family. That's what it
Right,
is.
right. And here, I think the disgusting thing about the corporate culture is that you privatize the gains and you socialize the losses. It's like when the banks and the corporations, after the recession started to do well, we didn't get a piece of that pie. But when they started failing, they socialized that failure to all of us with taxpayer dollars. It's like when we win, we only win, but when we lose, everybody loses. So it's like, excuse me, assholes, what is that?
I am so sorry, guys. Tristan is having a rough time. I got to ditch out early. Thank you. I'm so glad I got a chance to talk to you for at least a few.
It's nice meeting you.
Guys, later. It was nice meeting you. He's having a rough time. Gotta go.
All right.
Yes.
Bye.
All right.
Bye, Mia.
See ya.
So one of the things we've actually done during the pandemic, which I thought was kind of interesting, we actually nationalized our food production. So is the volume on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry
Yes,
about that.
we can hear you.
I see the volume might go
Listening
like.
very intently.
I was like, okay, yeah. So the one thing we started nationalizing our food. So like we have farms and stuff like that. So not only are we just like a casino, we have agriculture and baking, all that too. But whatever. But we nationalized our food production and started handing that out to the population. And I was like, that was kind of a big thing. We also, one of the things we actually did as well was to eliminate rent for 3 or 4 months. So
Mm.
you didn't have to pay rent
Mhm.
for 3 or 4 months, which was pretty awesome.
Well, how
And
did
then,
that
How did
landlords
that
get?
happen? How did you pull that
How
off?
did the landlords handle that?
what?
Well, I was asking how you guys pulled that off, and she asked how the landlords are handling that.
We just it's our land and our property, and we just said don't have to pay rent. Like it's kind of it was pretty that it
So
was
you mean
pretty.
the nation is not collecting the rent?
Yeah,
The
we
nation
were
is
just
not
like, you know
collecting
what,
rent.
we're just gonna like, okay, just not gonna pay rent. We also pushed for corporations. I think we pushed our checks out like a month, like extra month worth of checks for people as well,
Nice.
which was kind of a big deal. So we were preparing for the pandemic. It was a nice. Oh, sorry.
You're well coordinated. It's not like this like dog eat dog mentality of like, oh, like how can I suck the most out of this person because I want. It's like, okay, like you're going through this hard time. We understand. Let's find a way that we can all make it together. Not like, oh, if you don't make it, I don't care. You owe this, and no excuses. I like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like again, the American mentality is just so, man. It's so dog eat. Like you said dog eat dog, and it's what it is. And then
Too bad.
it's just such a machine. You're just like, how do you live in that machine like that? It's difficult.
A lot of people are dying.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you talk about a corporation, right? In the American mindset, the corporation is this cold, heartless machine that just eats everything in sight and takes advantage of everything. You just become either a product to be, consumed or part of the labor force. But your corporation actually exists for the people and is the people. It's the people are incorporated, and I wish that the United States was also that sort of corporation. It would be great if we could think of ourselves as a corporation and that we were all receiving dividends as part of our ownership in this, great American nation.
Right.
Yeah, it's this, the sense of unity, I guess, is kind of. I know a few things that was kind of interesting that we did with some of the funding that we had. We acquired 150, I think it's 150 acres of land that's going to be up for commercial zoning. And there was a race for that land. We overbid it pretty high. We took that land, it was going to be for commercial zoning. And we said that we didn't want commercial zoning like near our territory because we're building kind of a buffer, a little bit of a buffer zone between the city and we're right in the city, but there's kind of like outside like rural environmental stuff. So like we took our corporate funds and was like, okay, the town of Hobart or the city of Green Bay is not going to acquire this territory or this land. We're going to acquire this land, and we're going to make sure that this will not be commercialized. And we made it an environmental zone. So it's kind of like, okay, we're all making it all like it's pretty. It was a pretty nice move. I was like, oh, that's a pretty strategic move right there. And
Well, you're being
I kinda
mindful
like
about Mother Earth. We are, doing the opposite here. We're like, oh, we're even going to hurt other countries and make them chop down the Amazon rainforest so that we can make sure we got our consumerism. You guys are like, no, this is important. We need to love Mother Nature where we are. And we'll be like mindful about how close we are to it because, animals must live somewhere too. That's what I'm hearing.
yeah, natural. Like it's got to be nature too. Like it just can't be just straight up. I don't want mega cities. Like you don't want mega cities like all over. Like which is it's becoming now. The East and West Coast are just becoming one giant mega city. It's just it's I don't know.
And
It's
not
just,
to mention America has this obsession with like growing larger and bigger and more. But what is uncontrolled growth? We call that cancer, and that's
yeah,
not good. If you have like a big mole on your
Humorous.
forehead, you don't want that mole to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it's as big as your face. You know, it's like so like growth is only good if it's like serving a purpose or like doing something that's positive, not just growth for the sake of growth. This is what this dumb country does. I get annoyed. Like this is what some dumb people don't understand.
yeah, and that's the thing
Well,
that's kind
I
of weird.
wanted
Like,
to.
so go. Oh, I said I had an experience about
Well,
that.
I reply, please. Yeah, reply.
Oh, I never had an experience where like I had air hazards in my life before until I moved out to like Reno. Um, I
Oh,
didn't know what
yeah.
it was. I didn't know what it was. Like I'm like our air quality is pretty good. I think it's like a I want to say it's like a 7 or 8 on like the air quality chart, whatever the air quality chart is. If you ever heard of it, so it's really
What
good air
the
quality.
numbers range?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
7 good?
Yeah, I think a 7's good. I forgot what it was. It's pretty good compared to like I think LA is like a 45 or a 50 or something. I don't know what it is, the air quality thing, but
LA.
it was pretty good. And I've never experienced in my life air warnings. And when I was like in Reno and like LA, and I was like, there was air warnings for air quality, and I've never ran into that, and it scared the crap out of me. I was like, what is this? What's going on? I was like, oh yeah, the pollution in the air is so bad that it's legitimately impacting the habitability of being outside. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's where that's where we are.
Wow.
It-
Really extreme, huh? That it had gotten to that point.
yeah,
So,
And to be fair to Los Angeles, I mean, their geography makes it impossible to clear the air.
I'm a little
It
curious.
just gets trapped in that hole.
Do you guys have like MAGA in Native American MAGA Trump supporters or like little or not at
That
all?
was what I was about to shift to too. I was going to ask, how did was the United Nation feeling very, very good about having Biden now versus having Trump the last 4 years, or what's happening now?
I have a great story for you guys for Bernie Sanders. So I'm gonna tell you guys off there with the Bernie Sanders story, but there is actually surprisingly what I found out, what I was like realizing was like the generation that wasn't as educated as we are. I think there's a big uh, deviation or a big difference between our generation and like our moms and dads. What I
it's
was
called
finding
the
out is our
internet.
moms and dads were super Republican, but I also realized they weren't educated
Oh
completely.
wow!
Um,
I would have never guessed.
right, and there were a lot of pro-Trumpers. Like even my mother. Like right now, I feel kind of weird because I'm like, at home dodging the virus. Since it is what it is, but I was realizing that like a lot of these guys were pro-Trumpers, and I'm like, why are you guys pro-Trump? Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Um, but like yeah, the educated people, like our generation, was definitely all oh, not too. I'm not really a fan of Biden, but he's better than Trump. So
Well, I had noticed that Oneida Nation was getting behind possibly getting revenue from growing hemp,
Yeah.
and so that Joe Biden had tried to come out with a policy that would help the Oneida Nation be able to do that.
Well, we do got a. I can't really talk too much into this. We do have a governmental grant and development section, so we can actually develop a hemp field in Oneida. So we actually have our own field already, kind of under production. So that's kind of cool. There's other couple of things that are going on behind the scenes as well that we're trying to get involved with. And again, I can't really tap into that. I can really tell you guys about that, but it is interesting. Hemp production and stuff like that is a lot of our government officials are pushing it pretty heavy. I'm not too versed in it. I apologize, but
I feel like going towards hemp is going to be so much healthier for our planet in general than how we are currently. Like we do need to diversify the materials we use for what we have in ways that is less of a environmental impact. Like
yeah.
Even just like bamboo, that grows quicker and it's like strong still, and like blah blah blah. But hemp is one of those things that we turned away from, and I feel like the land and the people around it started suffering because we like deemed Mother Nature a bad thing when it was really just a helpful tool for us.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not too versed in the hemp production stuff, but I like it that we're pursuing it. I like it that we're getting involved with a lot of things. Actually, the one things I'm kind of working on, I think, is kind of more environmental side of things. I'm pushing for this. I don't know how far we can get it. I'm actually pushing for Native American environmental policy where we can go after cities that are polluting the territory or the air quality through legal action. So we can actually have a cleaner territory. Like if they're polluting into this has actually happened in Nevada. Something that the idea popped up in Nevada. I talked to some of my councilmen and stuff like that. And I'm like, we should really push towards this so we can protect our territory. So what was happening in Nevada? There was this small little reservation. I want to say it's southern Nevada. I'm not really quite sure where it was. I forget at the time. But what was happening was there were these giant, I think it was some kind of giant mines or production facilities, was launching all these particles into the air and was landing right on the reservation, and it was like destroying everything. And I'm like, yeah, we need environmental policies in place to protect us from like the local municipalities. And that's something that I'm pushing pretty heavy into. Like we don't have these things into place yet, but I think they need to be put in place.
We need that here in America as like, us as citizens. We should be able to be like, I don't consent to this shitty air quality. Y'all need to get your shit together and take care of this, right? Like,
Right.
but we make it so difficult because the people who are causing the problem are in bed with the people like encouraging it through law.
Yeah.
It's American corporate mentality. Like it's they don't care.
It goes back to that dog eat dog, exponential growth, no matter the cost.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, like a lot of like Native Americans are like stereotyped as like primitive, but how is the technology? Like you guys, of course, you guys are using like phones, computers, like high tech stuff, like teaching you like on iPads. Just curious.
Oh, I think we're pretty up to date with everybody. We have our own computer, our own like IS systems and all that, and private IS systems, and I would say we're pretty much on par. I mean,
I would say you guys are actually probably a step above in a lot of ways. That you've learned to use technology to help your people, not like harm the people.
Right,
Yeah.
not have these like crazy fights like thing. It's like, I know what's better for our Indian nation. No, I know what's better. No, screw you.
Oh,
Get
that
out of
does
here.
happen. That does that does happen. That does happen. Um, like a lot of people were pressing. So let's just say hypothetically, like we'll get back to the fighting, a little internal fighting, which is kind of interesting. I think one of the big things that was up for debate this past year was they're pressing for a $5,000 a year per capita per member. So it's $100 million right off the gate, right off the bat. $100 million excluding elders, probably been like 150, $160 million out of our economy. And and they were looking at that. They're trying to pass a bill on that, get rejected extremely quick. But that would have like eliminated so many different things. It would have eliminated like our higher educational bill. It would have eliminated like a lot of these different things. And there was a huge uproar about that. So there's almost like these different little political parties that pop up within our own system. So we're living in like, so I always tell people, dude, I'm living within a bubble, within a bubble, within a bubble. There's like multiple political systems. Like on the outside, I'm kind of democratic. I feel like I'm kind of a little bit of conservative within my own tribal aspects, a little bit in some aspects, more corporate based type thing. So I'm kind of like this in this like really weird like biosphere where, like, man, a lot of crazy things.
But just because
So,
when you said you had a culture shock, it's like we have these little bubbles everywhere, right?
Mhm.
And the thing is, we're not recognizing that we've essentially been in these little bunkers, and we've all come up to the surface, and we're like, crap, it's burning still, but like we need to fix like what's happened together as a team. And you're part of the problem. Can we help you? Right? But like it's just so much
Well, I mean,
stubbornness and
look,
ego.
look at the beauty of this. I mean, here's it, like Native American. We've talked to people as far as like from New Zealand, from the UK, from Kenya, from Canada, from like Indian heritage and all this stuff. And it's like we're all coming to a consensus that number one, like kind of like a UBI doesn't make people lazy, but number two, all these corrupt aspects of like governing, it's like we're seeing them around the world and even on like these little micro levels, and it's like everybody's coming together and saying kind of like, let's just end the corruption, because it's just ubiquitous right now in like so many far corners,
Yeah.
so one of the interesting things I think for the United Nations is that you don't really have control over the money supply, right? That you do have to operate as kind of a private corporation because you can't just go out and issue American dollars. Does the
No,
United
no,
Nations
not at
issue
all.
any of your own currency of any kind?
No, we don't. We're not that big yet. There was talks about it for a little bit, but they would have to be with our brothers. If we were going to do something like that, it would have to be with our brothers. When I say our brothers, I'm dealing with like the Senecas, the Mohawks, the Onondaga.
Okay.
If
And you
well,
would so have that ever come up? Issuing your own currency that you can actually control how much there is and how it's distributed and so forth?
there was talks about a cryptocurrency type based system for a bit, but it just kind of fell through right now. That was like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't think nothing's going to come of it. I don't think nothing's coming of that at all. So
Yeah, so for me, it's like because the United States government, is well, at the federal level, we have the ability to create money, right? So that
yeah,
I feel like that is the very and not just any money. The U.S. dollars is like the default, the de facto world currency right now, world trade currency. So I feel like that's the level at which UBI is really the most appropriate. But it has to come from there first because this is a corporation that is too large to fail. Right? There's no way
yeah.
to overspend ourselves almost. So anyway, I also wanted to find out, when you were talking about there are Trumpers there, right? I
Hmm.
was wondering if if one of the issues that is important for them is that missing and murdered and missing indigenous women act that he's very proud of. He said
Oh,
he
what do they,
signed
what do
that
they think?
into
What do they think of that? I've
yeah.
really not. I've been involved with a lot of Nevada politics with that. Actually, I'm huge. They're a lot into that. The murdered indigenous women things. I haven't seen here. I haven't had a lot of conversations about that. I haven't talked about it too much. And I don't know if it's because it's not. I mean, it's a big issue, like nationally. I don't know how big of an issue it is in Wisconsin. I had to look into that for you. If you want me to look into that a little bit more, I can. Um, I don't know. I really haven't had conversations about that in Oneida too much. So um, I don't really have much to
Okay.
add to that topic. But out west, it's huge. I think this has to do with economic stability. Something that me and Faye talk quite a bit about. They don't have the resources. Like they don't have like we have like our small little private police force out here. So we have like our police force and security systems, and we have like all that set up. And I think that kind of like deters like the murderers indigenous women's thing in my own nation. But seeing it out west where they don't have that economic stability or economic strength to actually build these resources and structures, I think that is an issue for sure. I think um yeah, I think it's not as prevalent in Oneida than it is in a lot of the
But
Western tribes.
that's so interesting to me to hear you say that because like um it's almost proof that your projects that you're pulling off within your own tribe is what we need to replicate everywhere, especially in certain areas where the toxicity is killing people literally.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a good example of why we need to do what you're doing on a systematic level in our
Well,
we need to
that's why I
get our
was
shit
pressing in
together.
Nevada. Like, and this is a small thing. I was pressing heavily the Free Education Act in Nevada, is because there's like 21 tribes in Nevada, and like a lot of them don't have the resources to like send a lot of their kids to college. And I feel like having that college education, even though I'm not a fan of American educational system at all. I think it's kind of a joke, but it will provide job opportunities, which will bring stability to the community. And I'm like looking at that, and I'm like a lot of these tribes are just decimated from like the U.S. press out west, and I'm like, we can just start off with little reparations by giving them a chance at a free college education. And I was pressing that heavily in Nevada, and it just seemed. Man, it was just so different. Like stepping from the East Coast Western tribes to like a stable nation to like what they had, and it was just such a huge contrast. It was so difficult to see that like this is us like 50 years ago. Like this is like what we were 50 years ago, and we're talking about
Like time
tribes that like don't
travel.
even have clean water on the reservation. Like housing is the issue, clothing is an issue, like education is an issue. Like,
So
there's no
how would
job
you help those
opportunities, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, well, I have a blueprint. like I have a blueprint. Like this is how we went from point A to point B, and it started off not with a casino. It started off with like a little gas station with like a little tobacco stand and grant writing, and I'm like, I can kind of like help you with some blueprints and how I got from here to there, and it was such a
Have you been
huge,
invited to give Have you
huh?
been invited to give talks about this?
Um. So
Have you been
yeah,
invited
well,
to other
I've
places
actually.
to talk
Uh,
about this?
oh yeah. Apologize.
Yeah.
So I'm a NASA scholar. So Native American Indigenous Student Association. I was invited to New Zealand to talk about nation building and international trade. And in my nation building project, it discusses a lot of these things. It discusses economic stability, discusses language revitalization, discusses education as well. So like a lot of the stuff I'm kind of covering that, but
Wait. You went to New Zealand?
I was invited to see. I didn't get a chance to do it because of like medical issues. Apologize, but
Oh,
it's
okay. But
yeah.
that's cool. Like, how did they find out about you and invite you?
Oh, I submitted a proposal and concept, and I got accepted into the conference speaking
Oh,
engagement.
nice. So is it like talking to their native population, the Maoris? Maoris?
Yeah, it was gonna be
Really?
heavily with Morris. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
So
So
I think
I'm wondering if you're familiar with the Caddo people who were they were originally in East Texas where I live now, but they were moved to Oklahoma.
A little bit. I think I've heard of them. There's just so many tribes within the United States. It's hard to keep track of. Like,
Right?
there's like 550 tribes like within the United States. And I wish people would like understand like there are all these little nations. But yeah, I apologize. I don't know too much of these people.
Well, the reason I ask is because I have a connection to them through a tornado that we experienced together during one of the events they were holding, and in their ancestral land area, where we have like an it's a historical site, right? And that's it. It's preserved as a historical site. It's not large. It's just, um, but they do come back and they do their yearly sort of event there. And we happen to have a tornado on that very day. And so now that we have this connection, I'm thinking that you might be somebody they would love to talk to or hear from. Maybe you could come out to our East Texas Caddo Mounds historical site and give your talk there at some point.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love that. I love that. I'd love to like get out there and help out help out different tribes and talk about different ways that we can approach things and solve problems. And I love getting involved with that.
Yeah, because I feel like they one of their main concerns is the loss of their language. And the community definitely, I mean, they have no longer any connection to their ancestral land because of having been transplanted. And so a lot of the language has been lost. And it just feels very devastating to have gone through so much. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Getting involved with that. We've some of the things that we've done to revitalize our language is we have our own like dictionary. We have here's just different ideas. I'm just throw different ideas at you that we've done. Um, and a lot of our elders came in the '90s and started recording a lot of our language. And I think that you got to start off with a base like that foundation where we could like who knows the language the best, how do we get from point A to point B, and develop a system of just storing the language, right? Like we need to store the language as much as you can, right? Um,
especially
So,
when time
um,
makes it easier to forget, right? But
yeah,
then there's linguistics and people that can come in later when they have time, and the world isn't burning. They can go through that and like document it too, right? Like,
yeah,
um, that makes
well,
sense.
there's definitely people trying to hold that down for the tribe, but there's all this other stuff that's happening, and poverty is a serious issue. And so these are like the nation building skills might be something that they need to also bone up on as things go forward, and not just have like one person in the tribe understanding it, but like having more and more people come to talks and like you said, everybody had to basically raise their hand and say I am Oneida and
yeah.
then coming back to the community. That could happen for them too if they make that, if they're able to see it, the path, like you were saying, you could paint the path for them. And I think that would be wonderful. I know exactly the person I'm going to try to get you connected with.
Oh, that would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Right. Anyway, I mean, I think that they're already very resourceful, wonderful people who are already doing what they can, but always good to have more resources.
Yes. And
I
anyway, oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Fran. Oh, okay. We were just hoping that since you did the Bernie thing, if just kind of like, do you know any friends that you could like share the message of universal basic income with? Because we're trying to like build a coalition here to have hopefully have more like humanity first candidates in either by 2022 and then hopefully Yang by 2024. So like we were just hoping to like gain some allies and friends and things like that.
I have a lot of political connections. I'd say semi-national and state level stuff. Um, I think it's just gonna. I mean, I can look into it for sure. I'm sure I can find some friends. I've already introduced Faye to a couple of my friends that are pretty big in that.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure. I
I
can look
mean,
into
we
that a
we
little
we
bit.
gotta ask, right? Like if we don't do the ask.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I think there's gonna have to be somebody. There's gonna have to be a senator or something like that that takes the step, and it's probably gonna be California. Let's be honest, California is gonna be the one that
That's where
implements
I am.
UBI. See, I'm not completely. Oh, I don't want to say this on the air. I don't think a complete. And again, I apologize for this. I'm gonna make a statement, and I don't want it to be. I don't think a complete UBI will get passed through both parties nationally. I think there could be a limited UBI that's going to lead into a full UBI. I think it'll take some time. I think it ain't gonna be nothing. It's gonna be difficult to pass like $1,200 a month or whatever we're pushing for, but I think we could push for 500 to 600, and it's gonna be a step in that direction. I think that's what's going to happen.
And we got to start small. I don't think like we're completely oblivious to the fact that this is a big ask, and we know it's a lot to like figure out. But like, I do think anything is a great step in the right direction.
With the but the thing is, like with the pandemic, I think it's a much smaller ask than it was before because of all the shutdowns and stuff like that. And like we gave like free money to corporations just out of the printer in 2008. And like with this whole virus crisis, we just like, here you go, like they didn't even have to ask. I mean, like, so the thing is like, if we change the psyche of people, I think it'll come through. I mean, like they like one check actually like came through, and people thought that would have been impossible. So, and especially with the Biden presidency, other than Trump.
Well, I think Biden's going to press a couple checks. I think there's going to be 2 or 3 more checks as well. But the reason why I say that, it's just Republicans are going to stand in the way. Like Republicans are going to stand in the way, and I think having a little UBI check is rather than having no UBI check. But I think it's going to be the first step into having a UBI check, if that makes sense.
But by the way, did your Indian nation get the stimulus checks?
Yeah, we did.
Nice.
Actually helped me out quite a bit in research. I was like, whoa, because I didn't know how I was going to pay for college. Like honestly, because I'm trying to figure out. I lost like $20,000 in funding for my research, and I was like, oh, well, I don't even know how I'm going to pay for things. Yeah, and I'm writing like a out of state tuition and all that, and I'm like legitimately on my like last semester, finishing up here, and then going into grad school. So I'm like looking into that, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of in a hard situation here, man. I don't know what to do. So they kind of helped me out a little bit, the COVID checks. So
it's just common sense. And the thing is like people get their education. They don't just want to get at their education and sit on the couch and watch TV all day. They want to do something with it. So
right. I think that's the thing with American education too, man. There's a lot of people who are just like the higher educational system through the pandemic specifically. I know tons of people who just got their bachelor's degree or master's degree. They're just like, there's no jobs for them. There's like nothing. Like even like our tribe cut like almost all middle management. So it's just like it's straight up just like executive right to the floor level. Our frontline people, and I'm like all middle management's been like
right. And then if no one's spending any money, no one's going to be hiring anybody. It all works in the cycle. So some of these Republicans are so ignorant. It's like a chicken and egg problem. People have to have the money to spend for the jobs to be there. People want the jobs, but there don't no jobs to be had when no one's spending money. So they got to get their heads out of their butts.
Yep.
So I wanted to find. So you might not be aware of this, Joshua, but we actually have endorsements from Andrew Yang's Humanity Forward organization for a number of candidates that have actually won their seats in both the U.S. House and also in the Senate.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we have, according to, like, for example, we have, we have people in the House in Washington, New York, where else? Michigan. We have Haley Stevens out in Michigan. We have people who've won U.S. House in Oregon, Colorado. And so, these are things that can happen once we, I think the fact that we have candidates that are winning on the policy of UBI, they're going to be there to continue pushing for it, and the small minority can actually get it discussed. And I think right now it's over 50% of people in our country is for cash stimulus. And I think what I heard was something like 70-something% of the country.
I agree. I think UBI is definitely I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be implemented smallly. Like I think that's going to be like the slow rollout.
Well, the thing is, it's basically a trust fund for everybody. Like Republicans didn't like Trump. Trump didn't earn his money from birth. He was just given free money from his parents. The Republicans didn't say, "Oh, you got free money." Whatever.
Yep. And the thing is the U.S. war machine, man. Oh man. Like, let's just cut back on some of that U.S. war machine money. And I understand some of the reasons why it's there, but I'm like, man, we don't need to be spending that much on the military. Like, if the military is so,
and in my opinion, it's very unethical what we do. Yet I don't have much say in be like, I don't think we should be going to war with people. I think we should be having treaties with people, right? Let's stop the bullying. Let's stop the oppression that, we've been doing. I get that, we want to go in and help other countries, but what if we just spent that money on fucking infrastructure and it's been proven to help, the individuals grow, and then they help them get rid of the corruption, right?
Dude, the military-industrial complex is America's greatest product,
and
it's been it was mastered through the genocide of Native Americans, and they mastered it, and it's just I think it's just an extension of the Manifest Destiny. Like it's just a continuation. It's just evolved Manifest Destiny.
And there's and then when they come home from the war, it's like, oh, you fought for your country, but now your country has no money to give you, and we'll even let you just stay on the streets and not even care. It's like so the people in the military were saying like you do realize that when you come home that like things aren't going to be as great, and so why would you want to fight for this thing that doesn't even respect you when you're done fighting for it?
Well, and I've heard so many people, I had a friend who was enlisted and doing their thing, and they were like, everyone's committing suicide around me. That was really disturbing. That they're like, it wasn't war that killed them.
So it's like you go overseas to kill people and then you come back home just to kill yourself. Like what kind of arithmetic is that?
It's absolutely insane. It's you put these people through corporate wars, and they're not really accomplishing anything over there, but causing chaos and terrorism for other nations. And it's I don't know.
And then they come home and they lose it here. A lot of veterans who came back from Vietnam, like Agent Orange, or they just lost their minds and started stealing things and committing crimes and stuff. It's bad. It's bad for us too, not just for the world.
Well, are a lot of young people from the United Nations enlisting into the U.S. forces, armed military forces?
Not really. We have a strong history with the United States. Actually, I don't know if you know the story of our people or not.
That's okay. You can share it.
Well, so
we can't assume that even if we do, that the listeners do, right? So we always like to tell the story again.
So the story of the United Nations is we're actually the first allies of the United States. So when the United States went to war with the British, the United Nations actually allied to fight off the British. So we were essentially in a civil war. So we were in a civil war. We were in a civil war with ourselves while we're in the Revolutionary War, and it was kind of a difficult situation with us. But we've actually supported the United States in a lot of their causes, like quite a bit. But we didn't know they were going to turn into like I think the founding fathers were well, they were assholes, but at the time I think their ideas and what they were talking about were kind of okay, I guess, at the time, and we thought, you know what, they're just fighting for their freedom, man. They're tired of being oppressed and whatnot by the British and so on and so forth, and we were like, okay, well, we're gonna go help them out, right? That's kind of our story. So we've had a long line of like soldiers that went into the U.S. Army. Um, but as of like recently, man, unless they're like military strict families, like my cousin. Is a staff sergeant in the military. But we were actually, our family was very military realistic. Like my grandfather and our great grandfather were all in the military. I think out of all of us, I think my cousin is the only one who went in to the military, and there's like 20 of us. So no, I don't see too many younger kids going into the military right now. From this is my observation.
Yeah, well, it seems to me like the military in the United States being voluntary sounds so nice, but at the same time, really only the poor or impoverished, who don't feel like they have a lot of choices out of high school, find that
Well,
to be a really a beacon of hope for them. That at least the government will take me in, give me a job to do, and teach me things, and that's how they get roped in.
see, I agree with you. I agree with that. I agree with that viewpoint, because like a lot of the tribes that I've seen out west, like that was their only opportunity, was like to go into the military. So like I agree with that statement 100%, that the U.S. Military preys on like the poor and
Well,
underprivileged, and it's
Yeah,
absolutely a disgrace.
but it's not
that's
just
the
that.
disgraceful, isn't it?
No, 100%.
There's this worship of being in the military that happens too, though. Here, you get school, you get medical, you get monthly checks, you get all these beautiful things that the rest of the country isn't going to get because you served your country. And, also, sorry about the mental health problems we just gave you. And, your missing leg, and, like, oops, but thank you. And then
The rest of us aren't serving the country. Only the people who are fighting. When you fight and kill other people, or get into that kind of physical situation, that's serving your country. But if you're at home raising children, you're not.
Yeah.
There's a whole mindset there. But so if you have this is happening in our country where only the poor go, then you have people like Trump who recognize that. And he says, it was stupid for people to go into the military, right? He's standing right up there as the commander in chief, belittling those who have been forced to serve because of their financial situation.
Yep. Oh,
And
that nightmare is over. The nightmare is over. Thank you. Oh man. Oh. But yeah,
Well,
I
we
agree with
still
that.
have like 74
so that's
days.
but then it's over in terms of we don't have to listen to Trump, but we have our Shale right here
Everything
who's
is
with
going to
us.
be fine. What are you talking about? Biden's got this. We have no
Well,
more
it is
worries.
just
There is nothing
I-
else to do. I am relaxed.
In all honesty,
This is a
man,
victory lap now.
I felt like Trump was legitimately going to eliminate, because he talked about it many times. The things that I was scared about was I thought Trump was actually going to eliminate Native American sovereignty.
Oh,
Like
well.
there was a direct threat to that.
Has he said that?
So I was,
He says a lot, to be
goodness.
fair. He says
Says
a
a
lot
lot.
more than he does, but that's a scary thing to
When
hear.
did he say that? Wow.
yeah.
That's
But
ridiculous.
And then he took
Shale
out
Shale is really concerned.
he went to one
But
tribe.
Shale is really
sovereignty.
concerned. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, he went to one tribe sovereignty already. Like I forget who it was, the Muscapy tribe. He's like, they just don't exist anymore. Like they're federally not recognized. It's like, oh, you're just not a tribe anymore. And I'm like, what?
Huh,
like
wow.
like you could do that? Like you could
Just
just
a stroke of a
eliminate
pen,
the
like,
government?
gone. Jeez.
Sheesh.
Yeah, gone.
That is pretty scary.
So then Biden's gonna
Well, he
come
wants
in.
to fire everyone, so he just fire the tribes he doesn't like. Huh.
He's gonna fire.
Fire the tribes he doesn't like.
Okay, so but Shale has
What
just
verbiage? Sorry, go on.
But Joe was very concerned at the beginning of our podcast, and possibly still concerned at this moment, that now that Trump is no longer up there going crazy and raising everybody's
Blood pressure.
like blood, yeah, that we're just going to go back to how things used to be, and we'll forget that the same problems still exist. We haven't actually done anything about it other than getting rid of the guy who's terrifying.
You see it already.
and-
Immediately, people are forgetting, and the institutions are trying to gaslight us. Immediately, the gaslighting begins.
I really think that if we don't get ourselves a UBI or some real great solutions, someone can come in and make Trump look like a baby, like
and I
small
see us
potatoes.
heading towards that, which is
someone,
why I'm
because,
upset.
because Trump, like, say whatever you wanted. Like he was like a clown too. He was kind of like a buffoon. He was someone to laugh at. But if someone comes in who's actually smart but as malicious as him, this country is done.
Yeah, and
We're
that's what I
done.
think we're going to get in 2024 because of the situation that's happening now.
Well, I think we're just headed towards that way anyways. I think the Republicans and Democrats, they're different ideologies and philosophies and the way they do things. And I think, yeah, we're just headed in the fights, right? Like, there's like no doubt about it.
I really think that Andrew is like our only hope at this point.
Well,
Like,
I
he's
think his
like
policies,
our-
yeah. I don't think
Yeah,
Andrew
his-
is going to be
No,
president
yeah,
at this
not
point, but his
himself,
policies
but
will
his-
get in, some
his
of them
kind
hopefully.
like personality
Yeah.
and his style, it like lowers the temperature. It's like he's just a decent human being who just wants the best for people, and you don't see that a lot. He's like the if you watch the Aladdin movie, like the diamond in the rough. Like
Yeah.
I really think like that's him, but he needs help.
The path to getting Andrew Yang as president is gone now. It was like a second Trump term. And Trump, I'm not defending him as a governor. He's an atrocious governor. He's an atrocious man. But he put us in a situation where we had a path to progress, and that path has now been obstructed. So that's that. That's America. We got that system.
So Joshua, how do you feel about the possibility of someone else coming along? Because after this election, if we have Biden Harris, right, then 2024 we're expecting Biden to say, okay, I'm doing that one term I said I was going to do, and then here comes Harris is going to run.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that just seems president would be great, right?
Yeah,
One
Yang
step
as
closer,
vice
right?
president would be incredible, but it's going to be Pete Buttigieg as vice president. I'm pretty sure because ideologically, personally, you can tell he's already working with them. He was already working with them to rig the primary. He's going to be the next VP under.
Well,
Kamala
I've
Harris.
actually seen
and I called
some
Kamala
very,
as VP over a year ago.
I've actually seen some interesting YouTube videos with Kamala and Yang where Kamala's like, I like hugging him and stuff and all this. It's very warm.
Yeah, but like that shit is just a
show,
performance. Exactly. It makes me sick. It makes me angry, and it makes me doubly angry that people are buying it. I want policy. I want change. I feel bamboozled. I hate this pageant.
Yeah.
Well, but everybody who sort of. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think it gives me hope that groups like ours exist and that we're only growing in momentum. Okay, we have been in larva stage. We had our giant learning curve, and it's kind of flattening out a little bit, right? And we can be the early adopters. And then what comes after early adopters? Finally mainstream, right? And so I think, honestly, it's just a matter of time that what we are doing is going to gain recognition. We're going to awaken a lot of people, but we're also going to provide a platform they can step into and be like, because a lot of people I'm noticing coming out of the woodwork are like, I'd love to help. I don't know how.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, I don't know how to utilize you yet.
I think the first thing we could do is like, I've been in a past life, I used to be a consultant in a past life. And I was like, man, we need to build a platform, man. We need to build a platform and build like we need to bring awareness to this group and bring awareness to these topics. I think that's the thing we should be working on.
The trickle up.
Mm.
Yeah.
What's the traffic like on a trickle up?
I don't know. I have to get in contact with boys.
I just messaged him today. But anyway.
So the question about what's going to happen in terms of getting Andrew Yang a position is every time I speak to somebody who's connected to the establishment Democrats in some way, they always say, well, he couldn't be president. There's no way, but he could have a cabinet position, or he could have some sort of role in the government coming up. But they never think about him as being a number one, a top dog of any kind. It's always sort of relegated to the way that Asian people think about it. We're always the minion, the leader, right? This is the way that people think about. You just
The
have to
bamboo
do your
ceiling.
work, keep your head down. You'll do all right. Yes, yes. And so I don't know if you can break out of that, but even if you were to get a really good cabinet position, it would be pretty good.
You think that it's just because of that like impressionistic, broadly accepted racism? They're like, nah, can't be the guy, too Asian. I mean, maybe you're right. That's just like super sad.
You think you'd be able to reach across the aisle though?
I don't want to say it because here I am, the Asian person.
No, I mean, I certainly that's something to think about. I hadn't thought about it for a while. I mean, because they've been talking about all these other reasons why he can't be. But if I want to be super duper cynical, I can say they're just hiding their racism and they're really giving other reasons when they really believe racism. But then I feel like I am the sort of extreme leftist lib that calls Andrew Yang a racist, a white supremacist. It's like that kind of reasoning. I don't know. But on the other hand, it might just be true. Who knows? We're in a bad position. The media is just dedicated to misinforming us. There's no canonical truth anymore. It's a cool world.
So something I do enjoy, during this little adventure we're on, right, is learning about how media has made such a big impact on how we view different races. For example, I met a group of people that were trying to show Asians in roles of heroic things, to detach from this, maybe Karate Kid or, karate kind of because movies really do impact how we visualize certain ethnicities. When Black Panther came out, it was all Black people, right? Or African Americans. And so it was a movie that was empowering for people. And it was like a positive light on these people instead of the crime and all this trying to screw your brother over kind of thing. I've watched some movies that I'm just like, this stuff really happens, doesn't it? And they're like, yeah, this does. But if you're focusing that on a TV show or movie, you're actually educating people whose brains are still developing what is okay and what's not okay, right? And they don't know if this is real or not. Some of them, maybe they're not neurotypical. But then so I watched this animated movie. There's more and more animated movies of ethnicity being shown in a brighter light. So there's it's not something about the moon goddess. I forget what it was, but it's on Netflix. And it was showing the family culture, and it was like exposure therapy to cultures that we've been so culture shocky to. We're like, oh, you're different. And then you're like, wait, I actually kind of like how you're doing that. And that's what you're doing. That's not so scary, but we need to do that more in film because of, I've mentioned this before, but the movie It traumatized people for clowns. Okay. Yeah. So if you can traumatize somebody through a movie, imagine what you could do for better, right?
You're talking about mind control, population control, right?
To some
cultural control.
See, but you look at the military-industrial complex, man. How much of a control they have over population control? Think about this, dude. You're learning how to put a mag into a gun, a certain type of gun frame. You're learning how to shoot people, and you're being interactively stimulated through video games. So, it's such a war-based society that we're in that needs to be completely rethought of and eliminated.
Have you
there's millions and millions of kids learning how to okay, I can identify this weapon. I can talk about communications. They're legitimately talking strategy within games and how to eliminate another group.
Right.
Like, that's a thing. Like, and I don't remember it being that way. And this is maybe conspiracy theory, something I don't really want to. I don't really want to tap into the conspiracy theory aspect of this.
Just say what you think. Yeah,
Well,
don't worry about it.
But I remember in the mid '90s, one of the big selling points for the U.S. Army was like this virtual reality game, this simulation game. But I know that like it was a big deal. Like we would go to like high schools and colleges and stuff like that, and they have like simulation games. It's like, oh, you're going to access this technology, but all of a sudden, like that system was like eliminated. It just kind of disappeared. But then Call of Duty
fighter
was popping up.
are. Yeah,
then
the
Call of
fighter
Duty was
planes
popping up.
are basically flown that way by simulator. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
no longer have to be in the plane. You just
Yeah.
fly it from far away. So that explains the whole Ender's Game. Did you watch the movie or read the book?
I have seen the movie. I actually enjoy it quite a bit. I wish there was a part 2 to it. Actually,
So
Um,
I
Yeah,
watched
so
this
it's the
TV
whole,
show.
training children to be war machines early on through
Yeah.
culture.
So
yeah,
have you come
through
to
culture.
have? Oh, sorry. Go on. Faye. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so they're teaching that. They're teaching like, military tactics and all that already at like early ages, and you're like, okay, this is how you throw a grenade. This is how you like get your team together to wipe out this squad. This is how you like how like bullets would react to certain situations. Again, it's not completely like real life stuff, of course, but it's like pre-simulating and like trying to get them the culture shock or the shock of like warfare and all that. I mean, it isn't as gruesome, of course, but it's still prepping them. I've seen many kids, and I was in the video game industry. Well, I was a player. I was like, I played in it quite a bit. I've seen so many kids get recruited by just like, okay, I played COD for 10 years of my life. Now I'm like 18 years old. I want to go into the military. I've seen that happen many. Like, I've seen
like
hundreds of
grooming
kids
for
get recruited by that.
military.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always gravitated towards the fantasy or alternative FPSs, never the military ones. And they don't agree with me culturally. I'm not a big fan of American imperialism and our American occupation of foreign lands. So that's what I think of if I play like, Call of Duty. So it doesn't really work for me.
It doesn't, but it
Yeah,
works
it
for
just
people
kind of
who.
ruins-
Yeah, no, it's in you. It's a great
Fantasy,
point. It's
yeah.
going to work for a kid who's got just like a blank slate. Like, yeah, and they'll absorb it, and it sucks.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
TV
Also,
show
the
that came
training
out
is
that
telling you
had
this is, the training is telling you like this is the best. This is masculinity, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that your culture is more masculine, like more patriarchal, or more matriarchal?
100%
in the United-
matriarchal. 100%.
Because I remember Faye talking to me about this. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Faye.
okay.
I was actually raised so the people, my mentors are all females, right? And I actually felt the opposite. So like a lot of like women talk about how they go into a boardroom meeting and like they're the only female in a boardroom meeting. Like I was the complete
Yeah.
opposite. Like I was like sitting in there and I'm like, oh, I'm the only guy in a boardroom directors meeting with all females.
Right.
Is kind of interesting.
So
that's really interesting. Yeah. Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna say the thing I was trying to say. So
Yeah.
there's this TV show that came out, and they did it very comically. But like this guy wins this video game, and then these people come from a different timeline to him, and are like, "Oh, you succeeded at this tutorial. You must be amazing at all these things because you beat the game, right?" And he's like, "This is a video game. It's not a tutorial, right?" And but they're like, "But wait, you won it. You should know." But like in their timeline, it was training. All these games were just simulations on how to be pros at things, And I loved that aspect because it's just like, this is training. But if you think about education, you need to learn strategy. You need to learn the language. You need to like be in scenarios where, trial and error, right? And if you're doing video games, you're doing a lot of that. But if you were given a simulation on how to fix a car, you're more likely going to learn how to fix a car, versus if you never played a video game about cars. right? You already know some of the language, you know the locations of things, you are taught like what works and doesn't work,
You feel
especially
more comfortable too, right? Like you're like,
yeah.
okay, I've seen some of these things. You feel more comfortable with it.
And they're doing that with
Just
medical
growing up
things.
with experience of things. Yeah. Just
The
having
access
that
to
experience in your life makes you feel like you can succeed at this because you've seen people next to you or
Hmm.
your family succeed at it.
kind of like exposure therapy.
I've always thought, yeah, when I was growing up, I would think, well, my aunt used to do that, so of course I can do it too. Like I would always look to people in my family and go, okay, well, this is something that I must naturally also be able to, because my family can do it, and they're just normal people like me. Right?
And then you have proof of concept that it's possible, right? If your family's doing something, if you have a family full of artists, your kid might know how to do art just by exposure to that kind of thing, right? But now we have people sitting in front of TV screens and video game consoles, and that's what they're being exposed to, and maybe not the life that pre-internet experienced.
It's a good way of controlling
Well,
population.
it's one of the cheapest ways to entertain yourself now. If you have a video game, that's $50 at most, right? Or maybe like the most expensive ones tend to be about $50, $60. And then you can play it for hours and hours and hours, way longer than you can enjoy a movie.
Well, I mean that's
A
why
certain number of
a UBI is so important, because we'll have more engaging, more developing ways of entertaining ourselves. Like the UBI, you can afford travel more. You can afford a car. You can afford a ticket, plane ticket.
You could
But
gamify your own life.
right, yeah, exactly. Instead, but then what's easier? Spending $60 on a video game, or planning a trip? Spending the money, but you can't even plan that trip if you don't have the money to do anything, you know? So then for all those people that complain, "Oh, people are lazy." Well, give them the money to not be lazy, you dummies, you know? I can't say it all any other way.
Well, we're almost out of time for our session today, and I would like to give us a chance to do our closings. I wanted to ask our guest, do you have any place that you would like people to connect with you on social media or?
Well, I'm kind of helping out. I kind of keep myself private a little bit, so I'm kind of just like, okay, you'll see me around on here if it's alright with you guys. Maybe hopefully be more frequent. But
Yeah,
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 so
of
how
course.
do you
Please feel
join
free
us?
to
Let me tell you.
use our Discord for whatever it would behoove you.
yeah, no problem.
In our
Yeah,
Discord, we have a text channel called the Schedule, right? Schedule text
Yeah.
channel. If you look in there every Thursday, Shale is laying down the schedule for the weekend. We usually podcast Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And if we have special guests, then they'll appear there, and you can come join anytime you like. We would like to extend that invitation to you. Anytime you feel like dropping in and listening or talking to somebody that we're speaking with, please come.
that'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Well, shall we go ahead and sign off then?
Yeah. Thank you for coming on.
Faye, do you want to start? Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting Joshua.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this has
Well,
been a
he
really
found me.
illuminating conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, always learning things here. This is good.
It's good to find examples too, right? And or people who've done the work, and we could just piggyback with this new message stronger because we have our own networks, right? But
You mean
yeah,
after we complain, we should just, tell people about examples of things that are actually working?
right? Be like, hey, check this out. It's proof of concept, guys. So my name's Faye Doney. My Twitter handle is @tisdoney, so TISDONEY. And if you have any resources you want to contribute, stories, I don't know, come on our show. Come reach out to me. I'm still looking for additional resources for my documentary series I'm trying to put together. I'm getting so much more. Like things are just moving so quickly. It's amazing. And you guys can be a part of it. So yeah. Passing it to Ariel now.
Okay. Ariel, yes.
Okay, yeah, you can come and find me, Ariel's on Twitter, and Revolutionary Thinking on YouTube. It's a little weird. I'll just say this. I don't mind, like Paget unlisted the interview I did with her on her YouTube page. Maybe she's like reformatting or something like that. I don't know. Something has to happen, but I have a copy of it, but I don't know why, because it opened up a lot of good conversation. But yeah,
Sorry to hear that.
have a great
That's
day,
too
guys.
bad.
Oh, well, I think she's saving you as a special treat on her Patreon. You can only see Ariel's delicious interview with Paget if you actually subscribe to
Most
Paget's
likely,
channel. So there you go.
yeah.
My name is Faye Ku, and I'm at Palestine Math on Twitter. If you'd like to come and argue with me, or just give me an advice, or tell me something you'd like to see happen on the show, go ahead, and I will. I try to friend back everyone, but I'm constantly at that 5,000 level. So if you could help me get a few more
Gotta
followers,
get you more
I can
followers.
one day follow everyone back. There you go. Okay.
Oh, wait. Also,
Chill.
anybody like and share our Facebook page for Yang Gang
Oh,
Roundtable
Make sure you
Podcast.
put that in the credits with Bart. All right.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Link
Put it in
that.
our credit.
Link that in our YouTube and Facebook descriptions and Spotify stuff. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, please hit the like button or subscribe or wherever you are reaching, listening to us so that you can be informed when we come back on.
Yeah.
Shale, you ready?
Yeah. Did Josh? Yeah, you did. Joshua, you did. Okay. We started with you. Sorry. My name is Shale. My Twitter is SHAELRILEY. Thank you for your time and attention, and we will be back again soon with more basic income advocacy.